Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, June 15th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It is a day of rejoicing, reopening, and reflection. Restrictions once in place to save lives, now lifted in what's being celebrated as a statewide grand reopening. Our coverage begins tonight with words of hope and of warning as well. Here's KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman.
It's been pure hell, man, but we're coming out of that. So I'm just being honest.
In Liberty Station at the public market, business owners like Tony Smalls are hopeful that California's big reopening will have a big impact on their bottom line.
Looking forward to seeing more people in here, building up the crowd. So all of these vendors in here, we can start to make more money so we can take care of our families.
Social distancing requirements are officially gone, and for those fully vaccinated, these masks can now come off indoors.
It's been, kind of interesting to just see the general mood of the market. Most people seem to be wearing masks still as they come inside.
Matt Gordon with Blue Bridge Hospitality manages the market here, which will soon have some tables inside again.
Since March of last year, we've had no indoor consumption. Everything was for outdoor consumption only or to go. Lots of the time we had to limit how many people were in the market.
For the first time in more than a year, restaurants, bars, gyms, and other businesses can operate at full capacity.
Hopefully people feel a little bit more comfortable with the easing of restrictions and they come out and visit us more.
Some people at Liberty Station were not wearing face coverings, but the vast majority still were. State guidance says those unvaccinated have to wear them in indoor public spaces, and everyone, vaccinated or not, has to keep them on in schools, when riding public transit, or at hospitals.
If businesses want to continue to require people to wear masks, they can do that.
California workers will have to keep on face coverings until Cal OSHA updates workplace rules, which could happen by the end of this month. County Public Health Officer Dr. Wilma Wooten says more than 75% of eligible San Diegans are now vaccinated with at least their first dose, putting the community in a good position to reopen and start mixing again.
We are very excited about where we are today, but it doesn't mean that things are over.
In the coming months, the vaccination push will shift to kids under 12 years old.
We continue to urge San Diegans to get vaccinated. Please do that.
Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says daily case counts remain low, and today is a day to celebrate hard work and get back to pre-pandemic life.
Lifting essentially all restrictions, reopening all aspects of our life, and we're now poised for a tremendous economic recovery.
Restaurant owners have one piece of advice for those hitting the town again.
To all the guests going out to dine, most people that have been working in restaurants for the past few months have been working real hard and long hours and extra shifts to try to keep those doors open, so be kind.
For now, there will still be some restrictions for mega indoor events like negative testing or proof of vaccination requirements, which applies to conferences and concerts. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Governor Gavin Newsom celebrated the state's reopening with the biggest drawing yet. 10 people got $1.5 million each. They were chosen from a list of those who have been vaccinated. This time around, no numbers from San Diego were pulled, though. The drawing happened at Universal Studios theme park, which is now open at full capacity. Costumed characters and tourists streaming into the park provided the backdrop for the celebration.
Today is a day to celebrate. A day is a day to, reconnect with strangers, loved ones, family members, give people hugs, remind them we're not out of the woods, and also remind them we're all in this together. Well, thank you guys.
2 previous vaccine lottery winners were also there and presented with their oversized checks for $50,000. County leaders were up early to celebrate the official reopening. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer was there for the ribbon-cutting ceremony.
3, 2, 1.
San Diego County got an early start to celebrate reopening outside the county administration building. Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says he's just happy for the return to more normal interactions.
We're ready to come back together as a community. We're ready to rebuild, renew, and we're ready to enjoy one another. One of the most beautiful things about this morning is just seeing folks mingling, smiling, enjoying one another's company.
At the same time, a separate wreath-laying ceremony took place at City Hall, a sobering reminder of the more than 62,000 Californians who died from COVID-19. John Hopkins says the nationwide death toll has now passed 600,000 and that just over 44% of Americans are now fully vaccinated. Supervisor Nora Vargas says she's proud of vaccination efforts in some of San Diego's hardest-hit communities.
Our hardest-hit communities were the communities of South Bay. Over 80% of South County folks who are eligible have 2 vaccines now.
Fletcher's looking forward to the rebound of San Diego's economy.
Our small businesses that adapted and struggled and opened and closed, but they kept fighting. And now they are in a position to truly roar back all of our businesses who are out there.
Local workforce experts predict an explosion of pent-up service and leisure demand now that COVID-19 vaccinations are more widely administered. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Mask wearing will still be mandatory in the workplace for a few more days. On Thursday, Cal OSHA is set to vote on revised guidance, which would generally align with the state's rules. It would require businesses to verify workers' vaccination status and make masks available to unvaccinated workers. Governor Newsom said if the board approves the rules, he is prepared to issue an executive order implementing them immediately. Not all Californians can go back to life as we knew it before the pandemic. Coming up, what the reopening means for people who can't get vaccinated for medical reasons. A funeral was held today for the 2 San Diego Police Department detectives that were killed in a wrong-way crash. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel has more on how their lives are being honored.
Right now, there's nothing to do but grieve.
Still numb by the horrific accident that took 2 of their own, the San Diego Police Department honored the lives of detectives Ryan Park and Jamie Huntley Park. Ryan and Jamie were killed in a wrong-way crash June 4 on Interstate 5 in San Isidro. The married couple were in their early 30s, both described as dedicated detectives who lovingly served their community. They were both promoted to detective together in 2018, and on Tuesday, they were laid to rest in a joint casket.
I loved him. I loved working with him. And when my phone rang Friday, it crushed me.
Chaplain Dale Larimore shared some of his favorite memories of Ryan.
We were 7 hours into a 10-hour shift, and I was getting hungry. And I said, hey, man, let's go get something to eat. And he goes, no, I'm good. And he reaches in the seat pocket, and he pulls out a bag of Skittles. And I'm like, no, man, that's not going to cut it.
Jamie wasn't just an excellent police detective, but a dedicated hockey coach. Chaplain Chuck Price spoke to Jamie's hockey team present at the memorial.
Go forward and make her proud. Achieve what you don't think you can achieve.
As for the family in blue they leave behind, Price shared some words of encouragement.
Be glad you were gifted with their friendship. Be thankful that their impact on your life made you a better person.
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
President Biden's overseas trip is in the final stretch with a major agenda item on deck. Tomorrow, he will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss heavy topics, including nuclear security and cyber attacks. And as Karen Kafa reports, it comes at a time when U.S.-Russia relations are at a low point.
President Joe Biden arriving in Geneva on the heels of his effort to reaffirm U.S. relationships with European allies at the G7 and NATO summits. One of his goals, walk into a summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin Wednesday with that Western solidarity behind him.
We share a long history with the United States. We shaped much of the last century, and now it's time to shape this century.
Biden has said he may seek some common ground with Putin, things like climate change and Iran's nuclear program. But cyber attacks originating in Russia are also expected to be raised. It's still unclear whether they will discuss the jailing of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny and other dissidents and the imprisonment of U.S. nationals in Russia. That's where U.S.-Russia observers say Biden needs to talk tough with Putin.
He's at war with Western standards, Western norms, and he's flaunting his power. So President Biden can deal with him with respect, but he can't sugarcoat that.
Most agree the meeting won't bring big immediate outcomes, but Biden can set a tone.
The best that President Biden can do is telegraph that he is full of resolve, that his government is resolved to respond if the Russians continue, that there will be consequences.
U.S. officials expect Wednesday's meeting to last between 4 and 5 hours or longer. Unlike his predecessor Donald Trump after the 2018 Helsinki summit, Biden won't hold a joint press conference with Putin after. In Washington, Karen Kaifa, KPBS News.
A grassroots organization is collecting signatures to recall an Oceanside council member after doubts rose over where she lives. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne sits down with the council member and opposing organization for some answers.
Corey Jensen was appointed at Oceanside's vacant District 1 council seat back in January. The term for the seat lasts until November 2022. But a local grassroots organization called Let Oceanside Vote is collecting signatures to recall Jensen before then.
22,000 voters should have their voice instead of just 3 council members making a choice for us as to who will represent us in District 1.
Cindy Davenport is the organization's team leader. She and volunteers have been going into the District 1 community informing voters of the recall. Davenport says the effort was sparked by Jensen's vote to close the Brook Street Pool, a city pool serving the District 1 community.
Our jaws dropped, and so that immediately told us that this person is not representing us, and so we need to vote.
Jensen says the pool vote was a misunderstanding while the city was trying to find ways to pay for its pools.
If that helped us with the shortfall regarding the pools, then I thought, well, that's probably an option to do seasonal hours like Marshall Street.
In the end, Jensen voted to keep the pool open. But that incident led to more scrutiny and questions about where Jensen lives because of tax records showing a Carlsbad address. The district attorney wound up investigating claims that Jensen lied about living in Oceanside and found no criminal wrongdoing.
My mother's parents came from Mexico. In the 1940s, they actually came to Oceanside. My grandfather started the first linen supply business here in Oceanside to service Camp Pendleton. Oceanside is where my heart is, it's where my family is, and this is where I live and have always lived. This is my home.
Recall organizers say Jensen still hasn't provided tangible proof that she lives in the city. Jensen says she sees where residents are coming from and why they want an election.
I'm just hoping that they'll give me a chance to do some good and then go from there, because we will have an election. And if I do a good job and I run for election, hopefully I'll get my position back. But, it's going to be up to the voters at that point.
Let Oceanside Vote has until September 10th to collect just over 4,000 signatures. Then the Register of Voters will have 30 days to verify those signatures before the recall can proceed. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
And just in time for summer and amid an excessive heat warning, people from all over are packing area beaches. KPBS reporter Melissa May hit the coast where people enjoyed some of the best parts of San Diego without any COVID-19 restrictions.
After 15 long months where facial coverings, social distancing, and limited capacity have become a part of our normal routine, California officially reopens to pre-COVID status. And what better way to celebrate than with sun, sand, and the ocean?
Today's like the first day. Yay!
Charlene Grayson is a San Diego native and loves being at the beach without a mask.
The beach means everything to me. I was born and raised in San Diego. So I can't surf anymore, certain things I can't do as life goes on, but the bicycle and my dogs, I grab a different dog every time and come down and ride the boardwalk.
Las Vegas resident Lauren King has been enjoying the beach with no restrictions.
It's just nice to see everybody's faces again, people smiling at everybody. So we absolutely love it here. To be at the beach and not have to wear a mask is amazing, and especially not having to worry about putting a mask on him is 10 times better.
Even with the pandemic restrictions lifted, there are still some people who prefer to wear masks.
I feel more comfortable with the mask because I'm kind of like a germaphobe. So I'm kind of a little bit scared to get sick, but I also want to come out and like have fun.
Isabella Gonzalez came down from Corona to enjoy the beach after a year of online learning.
Like I totally forgot that like COVID wasn't even a thing. So it was like really nice.
Melissa May, KPBS News.
Get ready for some record-breaking heat that's going to last likely at least through the next couple of days, potentially into the weekend. We have excessive heat warnings that have been placed in effect, also lasting in some spots through the end of the week. But near the coast, it'll just be a little bit cooler than interior sections. Still well above average for this time of year, but much cooler than the triple-digit heat that we're going to be talking about in the desert. So I did mention those excessive heat warnings. Here they are, posted for much of the region from Borrego Springs to Mount Laguna, Ramona. You're all under those excessive heat warnings. Some of them expire Friday night, some Saturday night, and some on Sunday night. So basically through the end of the work week, and some last through the weekend. For tonight in the metro, temperatures are going to be dropping off into the mid to upper 60s, partly cloudy skies, although we will see that marine layer building back in later tonight. 62 degrees for you in Oceanside tonight. Escondido getting down to 61, El Cajon 65 degrees for your overnight low. And again, showing you that marine layer, you can see it really starting to build back in during the early morning hours, 4, 5, 6, 7 a.m. And then after that, the sunshine comes out in the afternoon, and that's going to allow us to warm up again into record high territory here for some of you. Oceanside upper 70s, San Diego 75 for you. Temperatures even near the coast are close to, in some spots, 10 degrees above what is average for this time of year. In the interior sections, though, it is much hotter. Thursday is another sizzling hot day, so you get the story. There's not a whole lot of change here in the forecast. Near the coast, temps right in the upper 70s through the remainder of the work weekend, heading into the weekend. Further inland, it's a little bit toastier, low to mid 90s on the board over the next 5 days. And in the mountains, temperatures soaring up as well, upper 70s and low 80s. But here's where the real heat is. It is in the desert, so we're close to 120 for some days over the next couple of days. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
The University of California will require all students, staff, and faculty to be fully vaccinated for COVID-19 before returning to campus in the fall. It's a change from the university system's previous policy that it would not require vaccines until at least one was fully approved by the FDA. Those with approved exemptions will have to wear face coverings on campus and undergo COVID-19 testing. Today, Californians are celebrating their rediscovered freedoms. That is, except for one group. KPBS reporter Claire Tregesser introduces us to people who cannot get vaccines for medical reasons.
Yeah, it was just poor timing. It was like, I think 2 weeks after I got my medication that the vaccine became available to people that worked in the food industry.
This is Bernice. We're not using her real name for privacy reasons. Because of her job, she knew she would be near the front of the line for a COVID vaccine when they became available last winter. But Bernice has multiple sclerosis, and at the time, her symptoms were flaring up.
I always say, I'm pretty comfortable being uncomfortable because I'm a runner. like how much uncomfort can I deal with? I mean, I don't know. That's the question, is how much discomfort was I willing to accept?
There are drug treatments that alleviate her symptoms, but they suppress her immune system, making the vaccines far less effective. So if Bernice were to do the treatments, she couldn't take the vaccine for 6 months.
At one point, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
So she got her treatment. 2 weeks later, she was eligible to get the vaccine. But instead, now she'll be waiting until August.
It wasn't immediately frustrating. I feel like it's more frustrating now that people are back to normal.
Millions of people nationwide have chronic conditions requiring immunosuppressive treatments. AIDS, rheumatoid arthritis, and Crohn's disease are just a few examples. Also included are people who've received organ transplants and many cancer patients. UC San Diego epidemiologist Rebecca Fielding Miller says these people aren't getting enough consideration.
We have not done a great job thinking about people with disability, people who are not, 100% able-bodied throughout this entire pandemic.
She says loosening mask rules in stores and workplaces put unfair burdens on people.
Like what it means to live in a community where everybody can feel safe, everybody can go into Target and, buy a carton of ice cream and not have that be a terrifying experience.
But other than those very, very rare circumstances, people should be getting a COVID-19 vaccine.
Dr. Davey Smith, an infectious disease specialist at UC San Diego, says only people with known allergies to a vaccine ingredient should skip the shot. That means people on immunosuppressive treatments should probably still get COVID-19 vaccines, even if they won't be as protected as a healthy person.
What I would say, and what I do say to my patients is, yeah, I'm going to give you the vaccine, but you have a condition or you're taking a medication that might not work as well for you as what everybody wants it to. So you need to go out into the world and be careful.
The most I would do is just, do drive-through mocha. That's it.
That's the attitude taken by Bianca Santos, who takes immunosuppressive drugs after her kidney transplant. She received both doses of the Moderna vaccine, but knows they may not be as effective on her. So she doesn't feel the freedom many others experience post-vaccine.
It's very disheartening, though, because, you see your friends all going out and stuff, and then doing activities outdoors, eating at restaurants.
As a young person, Santos says it's depressing to look at her friends' social media accounts. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
One area of the county not really rejoicing over the state's reopening is San Ysidro. Business leaders there say they won't fully recover until the border is reopened. 95% of their customers come from Mexico, and so far 197 of the 800 businesses in the border district have closed in the past 15 months. The Chamber of Commerce estimates only had about $250 million in sales from March 2020 to March 2021, and that is down from $895 million in a typical year.
San Ysidro really has been dead in the water for 15 months. There's no logistical, logical, scientific reason that they need to do anything other than fully reopen for legal crossings.
The border is expected to remain closed until at least June 21st, and at that point it could reopen or the closure could be extended by another month. Youth in San Diego will soon have a new resource to turn to for support. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us about the newly funded Office of Child and Youth Success.
The newly passed city budget includes $350,000 to launch the new office. Its goal will be to coordinate resources and support for young people in the city, specifically those aged 16 to 24. Warson Arton with the group YouthWill says that there are a lot of services out there for young people, but there was never a centralized place for young people to turn to.
So I think this office gives us the opportunity for the first time to kind of create that collaboration and coordination that has been needed for way too long.
The office will help young people to find jobs, training, mental health resources, and other focused support. The new office will be under the purview of the mayor. But Arton hopes young people will be the ones to decide how the office operates and will make up much of its staff.
I have never met a young person. I have never spoken to a young person who have said that they feel like their voice is included in leadership and in decision making, no matter what space it is. It can be the county, it can be the city, it can be the school level. They feel like people just make decisions for them, and they're expected to follow just because they're a young person. And we're hoping that this office would be a space and a central space within the city of San Diego where young people feel like they can get involved.
Proponents of such an office have been lobbying for its creation for 15 years. Mayor Todd Gloria originally left the office out of his budget, but 6 city council members pushed for its inclusion in the final budget, which was passed yesterday. Other California cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles have such offices. The pandemic has underscored the need for it, Arden says, especially with 40% of the county's children now facing nutrition insecurity.
For the first time in the city of San Diego, we have an office where we're like, what does a young person need who is, if tomorrow a child is born in the city of San Diego, right? What would they need to grow up to be young, successful, functioning adult?
Planning for the office will begin in early July. Max Adler, KPBS News.
And here's another look at today's top stories. California has lifted most COVID-related restrictions as of today. Those include capacity limits at businesses, masks for vaccinated people in most public settings, and social distancing. California was the first state in America to go on lockdown, but it has turned a page on the pandemic. And San Diego leaders marked the official reopening with an early morning celebration outside the county administration building. At the same time, a separate wreath-laying ceremony took place at City Hall as a reminder of the more than 62,000 Californians who died from COVID-19. A dog that had her back feet partially amputated has been adopted by a family who understands her challenges. Chloe is a 9-year-old Shih Tzu, was rescued from a home in Mira Mesa back in March, and she recovered from surgery and was fitted with orthopedic slippers at the San Diego Humane Society's Escondido campus. Chloe was fostered by SDPD Detective James Chappie Hunter, who lost his leg in a motorcycle crash years ago, and now Hunter and his family have made her a permanent member of the family. She looks so happy. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. I hope you have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.